I will introduce this webinar today again. Welcome. This is the Community Challenge Healthier Texas Beyond the Label Smarter Eating Made Simple webinar. I am Coach Natalie, and I am your host today. Next slide, please. Rachel Polk is here. Anyone who wants to say hi in the chat, you're welcome to. Hi, Rachel. Rachel's my client. She's awesome. She's a rock star. Um, if you're in McAllen, give yourself a shout out. Awesome. Carnes County from McAllen. Hello. Hello, everyone. We are a federally funded organization. We receive the federal grant SNAP Ed resources. So we are a non-discriminatory organization, and this material is funded by the SNAP Education Resource Grant. Next slide, please. All right. So again, my name is Natalie Richardson. I'm one of the health coaches. In the next 4 weeks, you'll be continually getting the webinars on Mondays at this time. Um, and you might meet Elena if you have not met her already, Isabel as well. They are also presenting these webinars as we go through the community challenge. Next slide, please. And who are we? If it's your first time here, hello, welcome. We are Healthier Texas. We are a nonprofit organization dedicated to improving the lives of Texans by addressing the root causes of preventable diseases and promoting better health outcomes. Through innovative programs, partnerships, and community-driven efforts, we're creating opportunities for Texans to lead healthier lives together. We will build healthier communities, and together we strive and thrive. Next slide, please. All right. So if you are new to the community challenge, welcome. You are not too late to join. We started back January 13th, and we will continue on till March 9th. And these webinars are happening every Monday at 12 o'clock. This is one of your opportunities to gain a little more points for the community challenge. If you have not joined yet, check out our QR code right there at the bottom right corner, or go to txcommunitychallenge.org and sign up. Next slide, please. All right. The objectives for today is we are going to use a nutrition fact label to make healthier food selections. We'll apply strategies to set and maintain achievable goals related to your health journey, and describe health barriers and propose solutions in a group discussion format. We're very ambitious with our objectives today. We'll try to get into some deep and meaningful conversations, but let's dive into it. This is a nutrition fact label, and the more foods that you eat that don't have nutrition fact labels, the better. But if you are going to eat something that does have a nutrition fact label on it, it is important to know what you are reading. For example, serving size. It's very important to always check serving size when you're looking at your nutrition fact label, because businesses can get a little tricky with this. I once had a personal sized sweet tea, and it said 15 grams of sugar. I was like, oh, that's not bad. Okay. And I tasted it. I was like, oh, this is way too sweet. What do they mean? It's just 15 grams. And I looked at the serving size, two serving size in one personal size bottle. They can get tricky like that. It is always important to look at your serving size. Um, because all of this information is in relation to that one serving size. So make sure whenever you are consuming anything to look at the serving size first. And then you get to see, okay, what is the amount that they are saying that all of this information pertains to? Next slide, please. Calories. At some point in public health, calories were huge, and they are still huge on our nutrition fact label. But as a health coach, I want to remind you, calories They're just a unit of energy that we burn through. It means nothing else. It doesn't mean a calorie would have any nutrition value. A calorie could be a calorie from a soda, or it could be a calorie from a nutritional apple or a blueberry. The calories are going to be different as far as how they act inside of your body, depending on where they're coming from. The number of calories itself, though, will not tell you about the quality of nutrition. They're just going to tell you how much energy they're giving you. And yes, for a while, we have been talking about staying away from things that have a lot of amount of calories, especially if it's a small little thing that you're going to eat that has a high amount of calories, because you don't need too many calories to burn through in one day. So a lot of people like to pay attention to calories to not exceed the amount of calories. But I would say, as a health coach, my preference is look first where those calories are coming from. Because at the end of the day, 2,000 calories from cookies are going to be very different in your body than 2,000 calories from three balanced meals with your fruits and vegetables. It's going to act very differently. So calories are important. They are not the most important thing. They're just something to keep in mind. Okay, next slide, please. Total fat. Oh boy, I have a spicy fact for this one. Okay, so total fat is important, especially if you are trying to avoid bad fats. In section 3, you can see total fats are broken down into saturated fats, which we want to stay away from. Too much saturated fats will saturate your veins, will saturate the passage for your blood to get to your artery or to your heart, and it will saturate your arteries. So saturated fat, no bueno. Try to stay minimum on that. Trans fats are unhealthy. They have been banned from use. They are known to cause cancer. They're carcinogens. So, years ago, they have been banned from the industry. However, businesses are not required to put in an amount of trans fat on a food label if the serving size and the amount of trans fat is zero point 0.5 or less on per serving size. So, the business can get away with adding trans fats to your food. Trans fats are hydro or partially hydrogenated oils. Partially hydrogenated oils are more stable, shelf stable. They can last a whole lot longer in your pantry, and it is better economically, I guess, for that to be in your food, but it's not better in our body. Okay, so if a if a business has partially hydrogenated oil, they are required to put that in the ingredients. But if the amount per serving is less than zero point 0.5 grams, then they're not required by law to state that in the trans fats section right there. So it's super important to look at ingredients when you're thinking of bad fats. Look for partially hydrogenated oils because that will tell you, oh, this has trans fats. It might not be that much. It might be zero point 0.5 or less. But if I'm going to overdo it on my serving size, then I'm going to have 1, 2, or 3 grams of trans fat in my body, and you want to not do that. I'll give you an example. There was a favorite cookie I had from a favorite little, I'm not going to say where from, and I read the ingredients and it had partially hydrogenated cottonseed oil. I was like, okay, this has a trans fat in it. And I looked at the serving size and it was only 2 cookies, this size. So if I ate more than 2 cookies, I would have potentially 1 gram of trans fat in my blood system. So I had to say bye to my favorite cookie and ignore it. And I'm not going to say where it came from. I'll just tell everybody, look at your ingredients when you are trying to identify harmful fats. Look for partially hydrogenated oils. If it says partially hydrogenated, that is a trans fat, and that is potentially something that could harm your health if you're eating more than the recommended serving size. Okay, I said it. Next slide, please. All right, total carbohydrates. This one is broken down into fiber, into total sugars. Now, total sugars are naturally occurring sugars. And then also it includes added sugars. That was a nice change in our food label 5 or 6, well, more than 6 years ago, because it really does break down what are the good things that you're looking for in carbohydrates and what are the things that you want to stay away from. So of course, we want to stay away from the added sugars. Too much of that can easily add to prediabetes levels or diabetes levels in your glucose. You will also want to steer away from that just because added sugars will eventually they can cause obesity and they can cause a lot of health issues. We all know that, but what is the recommended limit for added sugars? Our FDA has a recommendation, and the World Health Organization has a lower amount on the recommendation. I would say, as a health coach, look at your own needs because if you have diabetes, that's going to be way less than what is recommended in one area. If you don't have diabetes, but you're doing a lot of physical activity, then you perhaps have a higher threshold to burn through those added sugars. Um, on the other hand, when looking at natural sugars, like um, naturally occurring sugars are going to have some fiber intermingled with them. And so if in your total carbohydrates you have a high number of total sugars, but added sugar is a whole lot less or non-existent, then I would say that's a preferable type of sugar that you want because fiber is in natural sugars. So you can see here in this label, dietary fiber is 4 grams. Um, Total sugar is 12 grams. So when you have fiber and sugar together, as they're presented in fruits, for example, that's it. Fruits are a lot of fiber and a lot of naturally occurring sugars. They will act differently in your body. They will behave differently in your body as, say, for example, just plain white sugar straight up into your body. You don't have any fiber to slow down the intake of that sugar into your bloodstream. Okay, so the gist of it is when you're looking at total carbohydrates, focus on the added sugars. You want to go less on that, and you want to go higher on the fiber area. And of course, the best way to do this is just to eat a fruit, a fresh fruit, or frozen, or can. But if you are resorting to foods that have been processed a lot more, check these out. Make sure that the fiber is higher and that your added sugar is lower. Okay, next slide, please. Thank you. Okay, so now let's go into our discussion. Um, I threw out some interesting facts in there, but I want to hear from you all. We've all had food labels with us for a long time. I hear from my clients different things like, what should I focus on? What are the 2 or 3 things I should focus on? Um, you tell me in the chat, please share with us what is the most challenging part of reading food labels and what you want to focus on. Yes, it is too small to read without cheaters. Cholesterol, awesome. That is something to keep, especially with the way that industry is allowed to put in things without our knowledge or without putting them on the food label. Nutrition labels and ingredient labels. Okay, the difference is we saw a nutrition label. The ingredients are usually the lists that are next to it or underneath it. The ingredients, which we didn't go over today, but I'll say real quick, usually the order of ingredients in a food goes by the amount that is highest. So, for example, if you read an ingredient label and it says, first ingredient is pureed apple, second ingredient is added sugar, third ingredient is distilled water, then you know that those 3 things are the highest amounts of ingredients in your food, and then the rest are going to be in lesser amounts. Sodium. Oh, Kaylee, that is an important one. We should add that to our next one. Um, Sodium depends also on your health and what needs you have. Like if you have a hypertension, you'll want to have less sodium. And there are, and like in the Heart Health Association, you can find that information as far as like what is the limit recommended for that type of scenario. Um, if something says no sugar, is that really relevant? Um, yes and no. Some things could be naturally sweetened, and other things can be artificially sweetened, and we want to know where that sweetness is coming from. Maybe it's not sweet at all. Maybe that's fine. Um, but yeah, I like to look at ingredients when I see no sugar, but it tastes sweet. I want to know what is making it taste sweet, what artificial sugars are making it taste that way, because I have health concerns on some of those ingredients. Um, yes, no sugar, but has the OS items and the ingredients. Yeah, so that could mean that there's fructose, for example, is a naturally occurring sugar in fruits. It just means that it doesn't come from sugar cane. Um, so if there's fructose added to to something that you've bought, then it probably um, it's a different type of sugar. It just doesn't come from cane sugar. It comes from a fruit, and it's been broken down and dis or separated in that form. Like it doesn't have the fiber anymore from the fruit. Um, what is sugar alcohol? Oh, that is a good one. Um, so that is a different construction of sugar, and it will act in a different way in your body. Um, we could open a whole can of worms with that one. Uh, Kayla, if you want, hit me up later on and text message the health coach line, and we can go into sugar alcohols. And yeah, we can go into that and do a deep dive. Are stevia and monk fruit healthy? Do they still elevate sugar levels in the body? Oh, that's an interesting question. Okay. So there is some research that is showing how our gut responds to sweetness and how that elevates our sugar levels, and not necessarily how our intake of sugar per se elevates our sugar. I'll have to deep dive with you on that one too. That's an interesting research that's coming up on how our gut health, our gut biome, changes our glucose levels as well, or has a part in that. Oh my goodness. Okay, Ricardo, I think there's two more questions we have to go through. Um, this one is so full. Ricardo just shared in the chat our 844 number. So if we want to deep dive into this, connect with me via text message 844-262-6224. We can even schedule a call so we can put our heads together and go over all of these things with like alternative sweeteners and elevated sugars and what elevates what. My name is Coach Natalie. All right, next slide, please. Okay, this question kind of pertains to what we've been seeing in the chat now. Um, how will you decide if a food is a good choice by looking at its label? This could be very personal too, because depending on your own health, you might have different requirements from a food label. If you'd like to share in the chat, what helps you decide what is a good food choice? Serving sizes and calories, that's a good one. I go for serving sizes first, and that's always a good one for me. Low sugar, low sodium. Yep, yep. Look at other macronutrients I've consumed and try to eat something that balances those. Oh, I like that, Becky. That's a good one. That's me too, Rosalinda. Foods with fewer ingredients. I love that. If I can't pronounce what, and I don't understand what I'm reading, I'm like, oh, do I want to eat it? Low fat, great. Serving sizes, sugar and calories, no added sugar. As fresh as possible, not processed. Exactly, Kate. Like if it has a food label, try to eat as least of those foods that are going to have a food label. Why not grab just like an apple or a banana? Those don't have food labels and they have all the fiber still in there. Oh, protein ratio. That for me, if I'm going to go on a hike and I need something with a high amount of sugar and protein, that is something also I need to keep an eye on, this protein ratio. Beautiful. All right, let's go on to the next question. Oh, we only had two. Oh, perfect. Okay, so we've got 9 minutes of questions. I'm going to try to address as much as I can on the chat. Put in your questions. Let's look deep dive as much as we can with food labels. And I know this might open more and more Pandora boxes and cans of worms and rabbit holes, and we'll just try to get to them. What is a good protein ratio? Um, if I'm looking for a snack that's going to carry me over, I want 10 grams to 15 grams of protein if I'm doing like a hike and it's a snack. If it's something like if I'm just here at my computer on a work day, I'm not going to be focusing on protein ratio. I'm just going to eat an apple. Apples have 5 grams of protein. Um, if I were pregnant, it's a little bit different. The protein ratio is higher. But in my meals, I'm trying to aim, like for my lunch or my dinner, I'm trying to aim for 30 grams of protein in my meals. Are all fibers the same? I've seen that Olipop are high in fiber, but are all fiber sources the same? No, that's a good question. There's soluble fiber and non-soluble fiber. I do not like to rely on products that are fiber enhancing products because usually they only have one and not the other. The best way of getting fiber in is through fruits and vegetables. You have the soluble part, which is the sticky, juicy part of the fruit or vegetable that you're consuming. And the crunchy part is the non-soluble. You have to have both of those at the same time to get the most benefit from fiber. And the benefits, one of the biggest benefits of fiber is to help your digestive system clean out and work properly and help you feel full. And of course, it carries the nutrition and some vitamins, but fiber itself does not get absorbed into our body. It kind of is like the soap and the sponge in our digestive system. So if you are looking at products for fiber, I'd say the best decision you can make is actually just go to your fruits and vegetables because nothing processed is going to hold the same balance as your fruits and vegetables and fiber, soluble and non-soluble fiber. What is a safe way to lose weight and how many pounds per month? I'd say 2 pounds a week is probably your limit. More than that is too much for your body. And the safe way to lose it is slowly. Um, with the hard work, um, exercise and fruits and vegetables, keeping consistent and keeping motivated is the hardest thing. Um, but we can talk about that more on one-on-one coaching if you need, because there's a lot of other factors that go in. Sometimes we hit walls and we just need to strategize a little bit. So Lydia, let me know if you are needing health coaching. What is the best snack for a diabetic? Um, So for diabetes, it depends on how high your A1C is. If your A1C is low, an apple is fine. Green apples are great. Um, of course, carrots and hummus and celery are great too. Um, the higher your A1C, the more limited you are to fruits and certain vegetables. But if you are just starting with diabetes, you are fine snacking on fruits and vegetables, any fruit and vegetable. I shouldn't say any with fruits. Mangoes, grapes, pineapple, bananas are pretty high on sugar. So I'd say always keep an eye on those. Even if you don't have diabetes or pre-diabetes, keep an eye on those. um, way to lose weight and how many pounds per month. I'd say 2 pounds a week is probably your limit. More than that is too much for your body. And the safe way to lose it is slowly, um, with the hard work, um, exercise and fruits and vegetables. Keeping consistent and keeping motivated is the hardest thing. Um, but we can talk about that more on one-on-one coaching if you need, because there's a lot of other factors that go in. Sometimes we hit walls and we just need to strategize a little bit. So Lydia, let me know if you are needing health coaching. Um, what should be my cholesterol limit if I have familial hypercholesterol? Oh, I do not know off the top of my head. I would have to research what your cholesterol limit should be. But probably what your doctor recommends is what you go for first. And if your doctor recommends that you see a nutritionist, I go to your nutritionist then. And then me as a health coach, I can help you adhere to their recommendations. But for high cholesterol, there are the American Heart Association. They have their recommendations on limits for high cholesterol. So you can check that out too if you have not checked in with a nutritionist or your doctor. Um, what is the best snack for a diabetic? Um, so for diabetes, it depends on how high your A1C is. If your A1C is low, an apple is fine. Green apples are great. Um, of course, carrots and hummus and celery are great too. Um, the higher your A1C, the more limited you are to fruits and certain vegetables. But if you are just starting with diabetes, you are fine snacking on fruits and vegetables, any fruit and vegetable. I shouldn't say any with fruits. Mangoes, grapes, pineapple, bananas are pretty high on sugar. So I'd say always keep an eye on those. Even if you don't have diabetes or prediabetes, keep an eye on those. Um, let's see. Is there something that say how many meal snacks a day I should have? Oh, how many meals and snacks a day you should have? Okay, that is a good question because as we age, if you are a lady going into menopause, that's going to be different than if you are an adult, male adult that doesn't have to worry about menopause. Of course, the rule of thumb, usually we recommend 3 meals a day, balanced meals with 2 snacks in between, and 150 minutes of physical activity throughout your week. However, we all have different lives and lifestyles. Some people do not exercise that amount, and some people do well with 2 meals and one snack or 3 snacks in between, and it depends. In general, usually if you're a very active adult and not going through the stages of menopause, then 3 meals a day and 2 snacks in between should be fine. Um, all right. So if you are in menopause, things do slow down, and sometimes we do not need 3 meals a day. Sometimes our bodies do well with 2 meals and one snack at the end instead of dinner. Each person, though, is kind of unique, and this is where health coaching can come in handy because we can play around with different things and see what your body responds to best. All right. Let's go ahead and close up the questions. If you are in need of exploring these or really getting your answer on the next slide, you'll be able to see that. There we are. Our health coach line is 844-262-6224. It's right above that QR code. If you are in need of free health coaching, Elena, Isabel, and I are happy to assist. And if you are in need of free Zumba or yoga classes or mixed fit classes, we have those in person and online. There's more online ones available, but there are some more in-person ones coming up. You can check the other QR code, strongertexas.org, and you can find out what is happening where on their calendar. You can click on the class and you can read in the description area if the place or if that class is in person or if it's online or both. All right, next slide, please. All right, that is all for today. Happy, healthy February. This is our first week in February.